What's going on, Cover Killer faithful? It may be light outside, it may be beautiful outside, but we're getting into the darkness today. Now, as you heard my last album review, the one that I probably just posted, which is Celtic Frost's legendary Monotheist from 2006, Tom Warrior Gabriel Fischer, however you want to speak it, has a new project entitled Triptykon, which is supposed to be actually the next Celtic Frost album. However, he branched away from him that way it could be the perfect album. He said it was going to be as close to the Monotheist era, Celtic Frost era as possible, except there was going to be a little bit more experimentation. There was going to be a little bit more to it. And really, these are going to be more so my first impressions of the album instead of a full-out album review. First off, the title of the album, just read it in the freaking description or in the title of the record, because I am not going to do myself the injustice of butchering this album. Is it because it's that good? Not necessarily. It's just one of those things that I have a lot of respect for this particular band. I have a lot of respect for Celtic Frost. I have a lot of respect for Tom Gabriel Fischer. You know, there's a lot of things that are really in work there. I don't want to butcher it. It's a 9-track affair, clocks in at 72 minutes and 42 seconds long, so it's a very, very long album. A lot of very lengthy songs. We have 2 songs that clock in at over 10 minutes long. Of course, there was only one off of Monotheist that really cracked any type of boundary like that, and it was really a song that was broken up into a triptych of sorts, which was right there at the end of the album. However, this contains 2, which is Goeta, which is the first track, which is 11 minutes long. I probably butchered that. I don't care at this point. Track number 9 is the long and lengthy 19-minute and 22-second long finale entitled The Prolonging, and They Do Not Waste Any Time. And by that I mean that they use all 19 minutes, 22 seconds. There's no breaks. There's a lot of hypnotic repetition. If I were to give my first impressions of this album as I plan to do, the way that I would describe it is this is probably the logical combination of 2 eras of Celtic Frost, the older era and the newer era. And I would say that the older, wow, I was about to make a big misstep there, folks. The newer era of Celtic Frost, the Monotheist era, Celtic Frost really wins out on this one. However, you will hear some of the old style vocals that you became accustomed to in the late 1980s, if you're a classic fan, or if you're somebody who just got into the band and is listening to their older material, wondering why it's kind of similar to Monotheist, but not nearly as similar. There are different ways in which you could really describe this album. The best way is the way that I just did, the fact that it's kind of like the bringing of the 2 together. Now, another thing that you're going to notice on this album is that it's a lot more doom-oriented. Now, a lot of people will say that pretty obvious just because of the song length, but also the song structures really have a lot to do with it as well. There's a very thick sound to it, and whenever you think of doom, you don't necessarily think of bands like Black Sabbath. You think of bands more along the lines of Spiral Architect and other bands of that variety. And you know, if you want to go into suicidal doom, you really go into Forgotten Tomb. If you want to go into suicidal black metal with doom overtones, you go into Dark Fortress. This is actually what I would consider to be where Celtic Frost would kind of merge into the doom genre, where they lighten up the tracks a little bit. They really create an atmosphere where the mood is very crawling, but at the same time there are still some songs on this album that retain a certain aggression to it, a certain raw edge that's very difficult to really show or see as anything other than Celtic Frost. If I were to say anything else about this that has to do with that, it would be that this is Celtic Frost, not on steroids, but Celtic Frost on something that's supposed to slow you down. Celtic Frost not on Ritalin, Celtic Frost on a downer. This is Celtic Frost that's really slowed down to a certain pace. It's Celtic Frost that's a little bit more mind-expanding. It's a little more hypnotic. It really breaches into that tide of just psychedelia. But it does it in a very aggressive and a very brutal and a very in-your-face and dark overtone. So I have to say this. This album is set to be released in just a couple of days. I'm not sure if... I think that's just the European release. I'm not sure about the American release. Whenever it comes out, I highly recommend it. I got the chance to see it, actually, whenever I was at work the other day. I neglected to look at the date in which it was supposed to come out, because we leave everything into separate boxes until the release date. However, let me tell you, whenever this does come out, and I will try to update you guys with a date as soon as it's made available to me, because I do work tomorrow, so hopefully I'll be able to make a video that kind of attached to this one regarding that. If not, remind me. But whenever it does come out, I highly recommend, whether you're a Celtic Frost fan or not, definitely check it out. It's a really good album. It's an album that's going to make, once again, the 2010 Album of the Year award a little bit more difficult. I don't believe this album is going to win this award. It's going to have to really grow on me a lot in order for that to happen. It doesn't size up to Monotheist, so that's the reason why I'm kind of having doubts in my mind. However, this is definitely an album I can see in the 10 through 20 range. Either that or maybe one of the ones that's in the 20 to 25, what a lot of people call the outside looking in. But I may expand my top 20 to a top 25 in celebration of March Madness. Let's see if I remember that in December, though. But at any rate, debut album by Triptykon, the new Celtic Frost frontman Tom Warrior, Gabriel Fischer's project. Definitely gets high numbers from me. You should definitely check it out. If you were disappointed because Celtic Frost called it quits after Monotheist because, well, Tom wanted to do Triptykon, don't be sad. Pick up this album, because this album will definitely silence all of your fears and doubts that you'll never hear another album like Monotheist again, because you will. And it's this one.